What's happening? Of course, you know it's your boy B High Radio Shout In. Stepping in the building, I got one of the coldest producers of all time off in this thing. Everybody from Pimp C, Bun B, to Jay-Z. I mean, this man is one of the craziest off in here. N.O. Joe, what's good with it, boss?
What's the deal, man?
Man, feeling good, feeling great. Now, I mean, Joe, first of all, I already know what brings you to the city.
Right.
That Verzuz, man. I mean, what was that like? Hearing them songs in 2022 being celebrated.
Man, it was a great feeling, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm in there, man, and I'm like, you know, I can't believe, man, like, you know, I produced half of the classics on him, me and Pimp C.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And man, I was just like, it was surreal, bro. Like, it was one of those moments where almost a tear came to my eye. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, it was in awe, bro. Like, it was a great feeling.
Okay, for you, producing with Pimp C a lot of those records, what was that like for you seeing Bun up there by itself and the Pimp not being there, man?
Man, I never would think in a million years that, you know, it would happen like that. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that was just a major missing part, man. And Pimp C's personality is like so huge, you know? But, you know, I mean, it was just weird to see it like that, man. But, you know, it is what it is, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
The songs will live on forever. Pimp C will be the greatest.
That's
you know what
right.
I'm saying? So, you know.
Okay, Joe, I need you to take me back to day one, man. When that music first touched your soul and you realized that you needed to get into the game. What was that point for you?
Well, I mean, you know, I was born and raised in New Orleans.
That's right.
Okay. And so, you know, in doing the music, man, like, I came up in a musical family. You know? My mom owned, a record store. And that's how I got exposed to a lot of those records, like a lot of the soul records, the Aretha Franklin's. And then she did promotions. They would come in town. And, you know, so I was just soaked in that. Plus, you know, gospel, you know, a gospel background.
That's right.
And so I just started tinkering around with it. I had a couple, you know, buddies or whatever. And a partner of mine had a drum machine, and we started messing around like I think it was an RX-7 or something like that. It wasn't an 808. Not yet. But, you know, so, you know, basically, man, you know, got to doing music. My first experience with a sampler was Mannie Fresh.
What?
Mannie Fresh had he had a SP1200. I used to go to his house.
That's crazy.
And use his drum machine because I couldn't afford it.
Because, see, I was going to ask you that. With you being from New Orleans, did you come across any of those producers out of New Orleans? So you telling me you knew a young Mannie Fresh as well?
Yes. I used to go to his house and use his drum machine.
What was that like when y'all were two young boys playing on a damn drum machine? Did y'all think y'all was going to go down as the greatest of all time?
No. You know, like, you know, so it was Mannie Fresh and Gregory D, right? They were a group. And they were already on. They had a deal with RCA Records.
My God.
You know what I'm saying? So Mannie had all kind of equipment, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, he was like big in the city, you know what I'm saying, even at that time, you know? And like, I can't remember how we met, but I used to, they would sometimes call and be like, hey man, Mannie ain't here. I said, I'll wait outside until he come, you know what I'm saying? But man, I'm grateful for that, man, that, you know, he let me use the drum machine. And, you know, I you know, did my little practices and stuff like that. And then I wanted to kind of change the sound, which I knew I couldn't at the time. Nobody knew me, you know? But I was just practicing a certain sound because I like the East Coast, West Coast. That's right. You know what I'm saying? And being from the South, I was like, you know, so I started just kind of crafting beats and stuff and, you know, getting the critique and everything like that. And then once I kind of really got the craft down pat and what I needed to do, I was like, man, you know, I think this sound that I've done could be big. I needed to be with somebody. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, then I got a break to go to New York. That's where I got my start.
My God.
I got my start in New York out of high school. So I went to New York. I met a guy, Kijano. It was JDK Records, Run DMC label.
Yeah.
I snuck into the convention. You know, I didn't have no money to get in. It was like $300 to get in the convention. You know.
Yeah.
So you know, went to the convention, man. Snuck in there, and you know, from there that brought me to New York, and I worked out there back and forth. You know, for a year and a half or two, doing records and stuff like that, and that's where I hooked up with Jodeci on their first album.
Yeah.
So you know, I met Devontae at MCA Records at the time, and you know, man, he kind of took me under his wing. I wasn't part of the Basement crew.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it was an experience because they had bought him like a $1 million studio in the basement in Jersey. I used to shoot out there just because Casey and JoJo was so dope at singing. You know what I'm saying? And I come from the church background. Like, man, whatever I can do to help, I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? So kind of got my chops wet there, and then did like some local stuff in New York, and then met Scarface in New Orleans. And those tracks, I had those tracks, man. I had those tracks when I was 17, so 18 years old. And Face heard the tracks because I was actually doing tracks, like because when I heard him, like you know what I'm saying, I was a fan of the Ghetto Boys, but I was more of a fan of Scarface. Yeah. Never knowing I'd meet him, you know. Whoa. And when he heard the tracks, man, he was just like, bro, like, what's this? So, I never thought that sound it would come to fruition like that. And, that basically changed the sound of the South because it had, like, live guitars and stuff like that. I sampled the organ. I brought the organ, the church organ into the game. That's actually the Meters. The Meters, the group. Yeah. The organ that from C. Saint Studios. I actually sampled it note by note on the cassette and then sampled it on a DAT and then put it into the MPC and then the ASR 10. Oh my God. And then I started mixing the organ sounds and stuff like that. So, then I did the Ghetto Boys Tell Death Do Us Part album. Yeah. And that defined the sound of the South. Because we didn't really have a sound. Yeah. It was just we was copying East Coast music, West Coast music. This was slowed down a little bit, groovy. I used cool samples. Yeah. Had the bass line played with it, and the organs would have been pronounced more, but Scarface is a stickler about his production. So what I noticed is like, certain things I had sticking out, he would be like, man, take that out of there. So I was like, man, I just don't want him to remove the organ, so I load them down in the mix. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That organ, I mean, that's what everybody knows and loves, okay? So, we needed that in all them tracks.
Yep.